Gentlemen, awesome to be back with you on MGTOW Money. Today's topic, going MGTOW will kill you, study shows. Before we get to that, let me, as always, sincerely thank the ongoing support and investment from the Patreon supporters of this channel. Gentlemen, thank you. I do sincerely appreciate it. As well as, I've mentioned this before, gentlemen, check out the comment section of this video and some of the prior videos I've done. Let me just tell you, men, there are some fantastic MGTOWs out there who are doing unbelievable things with their life today and have plans to move forward with them. You can find true inspiration if you will look through some of the comment sections of some of the videos. Some great ideas, actionable ideas, great stories people are sharing. It is absolutely super. All right, let's get on to today's topic about going MGTOW will kill you, study shows. Let me put this in some sort of context as usual. Gentlemen, I am not a mathematician nor a statistician. However, I do have an amateur's interest in statistics, data research, social science research, medical research, etc. A couple of recent books that I've read, I'll include links to them. One book was Rigor Mortis. Another book was Getting Risk Right. These are just two that I've read recently. All right, gentlemen, let's say right up front, you are being manipulated. Yes, we all of us collectively are being manipulated. I'm not saying that there's some sort of conspiracy or something like that going on, although God knows, maybe there is. But coincidentally, I'm seeing a lot of articles over the past 6 to 12 months. For example, study shows single men die sooner. Study shows retired early men or just retiring early causes early death. One of the commenters matter of fact, had mentioned that. Or another one, you need a lot more money than you think you did to retire. You're going to need millions to retire. Or just forget about retirement. You're going to be working till you're dead. Okay, gentlemen, well, if that all applies, if all these quote-unquote studies apply, then I need to start planning my funeral right now because I'm clearly on the way out any moment now. First, gentlemen, I want you to apply the 80-20 rule to all these studies. Be very, very skeptical. Your default position when you start hearing someone that says, study shows, don't you know, everyone knows, statistics say, 80% of those claims are bogus. They're BS. They're not correct, gentlemen. For example, I did an entire video regarding finance industry and the investment industry about various myths that they create and that type of thing. As I've said repeatedly, gentlemen, ultimately, no one cares more about your life than you do. Your health, your financial life, etc. No one cares more about it than you do. No one is ever going to bail you out. No one is going to take care of you. Ultimately, you need to focus on being responsible for yourself. Don't take these studies, or I should say, take these studies with a grain of salt. All right, let's continue on in terms of what I'm talking about specifically. Many times these studies are confusing what can be called correlation, or another term you might hear is association with causation. In other words, men who live longer, let's say they drink a glass of milk every day. So we know if you drink a glass of milk every day, you're going to live longer. Gentlemen, that's not necessarily true, obviously. First of all, we don't know, well, how many men were studied, for example. Who funded the study? Did the milk industry fund this study? What were the ages of those that were studied? What was their lifestyle like, etc.? Or let's take another one, gentlemen, that single men are going to die sooner than married men. Again, who were the men that were studied? What was their cultural background, etc.? I'm going to include a link to a study that goes into this much more in depth in terms of not just the article from the BBC, for example, that referenced this, but another study that goes into this more in depth. And quite frankly, it conflicts. In 10 words or less, they're not sure. Yeah, they've got theories and hypotheses, etc. Did they do a study among MGTOW, among men who have actually made a deliberate decision to be single? Have they studied them? I would presume not, or haven't studied very many of them. Let's just say that. Next, be careful whenever you hear about averages in terms of, well, the average depth of this river is only 1 meter or 3 feet effectively. Thus, it's okay to cross the river, but oops, we forgot to leave out the first step is 5 meters, a la 15 feet. Or another one, Again, I mentioned this one in the investment video where I talked about myths in the investment industry. Stocks average a 10% return on your money year after year. Okay, that sounds great, but hold it. What if do they ever go through time periods where they don't average 10%? Well, let's see, from 1966 to 1982, yeah, that's 16 years in a row. They did nothing. In other words, the overall return on your money was nothing. If you actually go back from 2000 to 2017, actually, the percentage is far less than 10%. Again, where are we starting from relative when we talk about these averages? Be very, very careful when you hear about averages. Instead of the average, ask them specifically, what is the mean? What is the MAN? In other words, what's the number in the middle in this data set? This will give you a much more realistic evaluation of what they're talking about. This is especially important when someone is recommending an investment to you in terms of some sort of investment vehicle, or when a doctor, for example, might be making a medical recommendation to you in terms of, okay, well, the probability is that on average, most people will feel better after taking this. Okay, doctor, thank you very much for the information. Do you happen to know the mean on this? And I'll let some of the doctors who are subscribed to this channel chime in and they can give some feedback about this, but that's my general sense of things. All right, gentlemen, in summary, by default, use the 80-20 rule whenever you hear someone, read an article, it says, quote, study says. It's probably bogus, gentlemen. I'm not saying 100%, but again, 80% of the time, it's probably bogus. So much of this so-called science is simply evolving and it's changing, and today's truth is tomorrow's lie. It's a falsehood tomorrow due to, quote, new research. Number 2, don't let yourself be deceived, which frequently happens by correlation versus causation. In other words, and I see this a lot in books and magazines in particular when it comes to diet, health, exercise, etc., where they say, well, just drink this magic potion and you'll live to 100 or whatever. And again, they've done a study sample of 5 people or whatever it is. Again, don't let that happen to you, gentlemen. Use a little second order thinking. Who's being studied here? How many people are being studied here? Who's paying for this study? There are plenty of experts that you'll see on TV, on YouTube, you'll hear on the radio that are well-credentialed, that are well-dressed, etc. And you know what they're trying to do? They're trying to take your money, gentlemen. Just be careful. All right, lastly, speaking of being careful, of course, when you hear someone use the term average, gentlemen, that should raise red flags in your mind. Again, you're looking for the mean. What's the middle number that we're talking about here? That'll give you something much more realistic. From my own experience, for example, when I'm looking at my total spending for the entire year of 2017, I didn't look at the average number, the average amount that I spent per month. I looked at the mean, the middle number, because that's a much more realistic number. Some months I might have a high spending month, some months I might have a very low spending month, but that mean gives me something that's much more realistic and tangible, and that's something you should be using on a regular basis. All right, gentlemen, if you haven't hit the subscribe button, do it now. Smash it. Number 2, as always, if you found this useful, hit the like button, share it with friends and foes alike. They'll probably hate it, but so be it. As always, John Galt out.